It's an unofficial holiday. Anybody know what it is? No, it's not no class day. Today is definitely a class day. It is National Act of Kindness Day. National Kindness Day. So if you have an opportunity today to do something nice for somebody, just for the sake of doing something nice, please honor National Kindness Day by being a part of the solution and not the problem. However, there's some good announcements today. Guys, we're going to be starting our Chapter 7 today after we do a review of Chapter 6. And if you recall, this side of the room right now is up 2-0. This side of the room, you guys better be bringing your A game today, or there's no chance of getting those bonus points. You know what? Well, today could be the day. Today could be the day. You guys today are the pressure is on. Now Friday, are we meeting as a class? We're not. I'm going to be presenting at a conference in Pittsburgh, so I will not be here all day. After we finish up Chapter 7, however, we're going to be doing our second test, which is Chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 4 chapters. It will be no more difficult than a normal test. Now, guys, here's the road to finals. Please pay attention, guys. The road to finals goes like this. We're going to be covering, at most, after Chapter 7, 2 to 3 more chapters. And when I say 2 to 3, we're going to be covering the important parts. We're going to be cutting things down. Chapter 10, 11, and 12. And I may be mashing those up a little bit so that we're not covering them in their entirety, but getting some key and important stuff. I actually might cover some of this stuff in an online format too, giving you an opportunity for an open book, open notes exam on chapters 14 and 16. Or I may recombine these in another way as well, because there's no way we can get through all this material. I'll be announcing our online strategy formally next couple of days. It's something that will be low profile, and what I mean by that is you watch the video, you look at the slides, you keep them with you and keep your book with you when you take the exam. You should be able to get a perfect score on the online test. It'll count as a full test grade. It'll boost your test grade. Is that okay with everybody? All right, our final in this class, is it cumulative? It is not. It's going to be like a normal test, so nothing to stress over in here. Guys, we do, however, have an assignment that's going to be due on the 25th before we go on break for Thanksgiving. And what I'm going to be asking you to do is to apply some of what we've learned in terms of recruiting. Tell me how you would recruit for a guitar company. We're going to cover this assignment in some depth. Not today, probably next week, because it's not due until the 25th. What I'm asking you to do is tell me how you would go about recruiting for a new guitar builder for KPT Guitars, based in Loretto, Pennsylvania. Some of our designs will be getting a little stale. We may have some good internal applicants. We may have external applicants. Which way would you go and why? So that'll be due on the 25th. We'll cover it in more depth next week. But we got to start off with a review. And since Corey, our scorekeeper, is not here today, would anybody like to volunteer to get a bonus point by being our scorekeeper for this exercise? You don't get the points on either team, but you get guaranteed points. So I have somebody. Richard, you're our scorekeeper. All right. Keep in mind, Richard already has his points. He doesn't have to worry about it because he's getting a guaranteed bonus point, so he's not going to be biased. All right, we have Team 1 and we have Team 2. I'm going to hand the magic scoring wand over to Richard. All right, because we do this in a fair method, I always do write down a... Actually, you know what? Maybe we'll just do a coin toss this time. Would you prefer a coin toss? Does somebody have a coin they can lend? I don't have a coin. I very seldom carry cash. All right. Does either team have a preference on heads or tails? So this team, because you guys are down 0 to 2, heads is your call. If it's heads, you guys will go first. And Richard's going to be our verifier on this thing. And what do we get? So you guys get to go first. So it worked out in your favor. Thank you, Aaron. So let's get into the review. And we're starting off with the team to my left. The process of generating a pool of qualified applicants for organizations' jobs. Is that retention, recruiting, marketing, or job analysis? Is B your answer? What is your answer? It's B. Well, good, because it's the right damned answer. So good. All right, team to my right. Which of the following is not a desirable trait for a recruiter? Is it good communication skills, diversity and sensitivity skills, a winning take no prisoner's answer for an approach, or good follow-up activities? Which one is not a desirable trait for a recruiter? Good communication skills, diversity, sensitivity skills, never take no for an answer, approach, or good follow-up activities? C is correct. All right, team 1. All individuals who are available for selection, if all possible recruitment strategies are used. Is that a labor force population, an applicant population, an applicant pool, or a candidate pool? What do you think? So, does the team agree? Good, because it's the right answer. All right, team 2, true or false? A high unemployment rate makes it an employer's market. Is that true or false, team 2? A high unemployment rate makes it an employer's market. Is that true or false?
True.
So it's true is correct. All right, team 1, the image of the organization that is held both by employees and outsiders.
Just to clarify, that's team 2, this is team 1.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think you guys are tied now anyway, aren't we? Yeah. So, sorry about that. I should say team closest to me. Team furthest away from me. The image of an organization is held both by employees and outsiders. Is that company culture, employment brand, company image, or media presence? So our guess is for C. It's incorrect. It's employment brand. All right. Team closest to me. Companies who hire employees and then lease them back to employers. Are those called independent contractors, recruitment process outsourcing organizations, professional employer organizations, or subcontractors? What is your guess? Our guess is A. Too bad because it was C. But you guys are pretty evenly matched here. Back to the team furthest away from me. All the following are reasons why employers don't want to hire full-time employees, except: is it increased cost, economic conditions, excessive competition, or better performance? Right out of our text. What do you think, guys? Say the answer real loud. I'm sorry. D is your answer because it's correct. All right, team closest to me. True or false? Employers are likely to look at potential hire social media sites. So we got a guess for true because it's correct. We up to date? We good? Okay. Back to the team furthest away from me. True or false? Anonymous recruiting may reduce the risk of employers participating in discriminatory recruiting practices.
True.
That is true. All right. This side of the room, bidding on jobs is associated with what? Headhunters, unions, employment agencies, or job fairs? Team closest to me. Team closest to me. What do you say? So your guess is C? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, that is incorrect. It would be unions. All right. Team furthest from me. People who focus on recruiting executive talent are known as, is it talent scouts, talent agents, headhunters, or headbangers? What's your guess, guys?
C.
Guess is for C, and it's correct. If you said headbangers, however, I would have come out and done this for you guys, because headbangers are awesome. Team closest to me, which of the following is not an advantage of promoting an internal candidate? Which is not an advantage of promoting someone inside? Increasing morale, lowering recruiting costs, inbreeding of existing company culture, or aid in succession planning? Which is not an advantage of internal recruiting? The team closest to me.
C.
C is correct. All right, how did our scores turn out? All right, you guys are still in the game. You have to win Chapter 7. And if you do that, we've got a tie, and we've got to have a tiebreaker. So you did what you needed to do today, guys. Well done. So, and the crowd goes wild. Yes. All right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about selecting human resources. In other words, how do you pick somebody that you want for a job? What's the process really called in picking someone? Well, it's called recruiting, but what's the part of the recruiting process? What are we doing to get the right person for the job? We're interviewing. We're selecting, but we're interviewing. We're going to be talking a lot about interviewing. We're going to be talking a lot about how that whole process works. And guys, before we dive too far into to this chapter, it ties in directly with the kinds of activities we're doing with the Center for Community Action. Guys, for those of you who were at the Center for Community Action this past Tuesday, any thoughts, any feedback from your experience for your colleagues? Any thoughts there?
I guess it just puts in perspective that I feel like we're so caught up in what's going on here, we don't realize that there's people struggling so close to us.
It blows my mind that center is 2 miles from my house, and that everybody in my neighborhood has a good job and a garage and 2 cars, and these people are trying to figure out how they're paying the rent and getting child care. Jared, any reactions from you on this one? So getting to experience the other walk of life. Let's see, anything you would add? I'm sorry. I would agree that it's a good experience for everyone, but I really enjoy the fact that they get to meet people who are pursuing their dreams and seeing that this will sound overly idealistic to some people, but I really mean it. Like when I see people who are pursuing their dreams in college, when I see people who are trying to make themselves better, who are trying to go after that killer career, they can be inspired. People your age can inspire people way older than you. We did have one person out of 4 yesterday who maybe was less inspired than the others, but you know what? You can't win every fight. Here's the deal, guys. The students who were with me yesterday got to experience sometimes what it's like to be on this side of the room. For anybody who's willing to share, because we're not naming names, we're not breaking confidentiality. Participant 4, what did they do the entire time?
She slept all the time.
Literally, we had a student whose entire posture, the entire session was this. Like literally did not lift her head. And as an instructor, every part of me wanted to go over and prank this girl, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it in that situation. That being said, guys, the next phase with the Center for Community Action, in fact, what we're going to be doing on Tuesday, we're going to be doing mock interviews. And the folks I have signed up for mock interviews, I've got Richard is signed up. We got, who do we have? Zach is signed up. We got Carter. We got, actually, we had Jared and Sarah. You guys are both signed up to go back again as well. For the folks who've already been, for Sarah and Jared, I'm going to put you guys as a lower priority on the list there because you've already been out. Yes? It is. So you're out anyway. That's fine. Is anybody else going to be on that trip? All right. So what we'll have to do for we're actually adding a session the first week of December. I know a couple folks who haven't gone yet. Corey, you're in for that one, I believe. Everybody who is not getting in yet, we'll put you on for that. Becky, are you around on Tuesday? Because here's the way we're going to play this. On Monday morning, I'll find out who's available next Tuesday for mock interviews at the center. And on Monday, we have a representative from Career Services who's coming here. Guys, please pay attention. On Monday, we have a representative from Career Services who is coming here to class to teach us the fundamentals of good interviewing skills. Whether or not you're going on the trip on Tuesday, that's going to be good for all of us. So whoever ends up going, we'll be making that decision on Tuesday, but we'll be getting the skills in class on Monday. For the folks who are doing the marketing trip on Tuesday, obviously you will not be joining us. Any questions, guys? A lot of moving parts here. It's what you do when you do community engaged classes. What we're talking about now is how we pick people we hire for a job. Guys, I'm going to start off with some true stories about things I've experienced in my years interviewing people for jobs. In my last life, I spent about 20 years doing interviews. I would interview people all the time for jobs. I was on search committees, all of these things. And these are some things that people have done wrong in interviews. I was once on an interview panel where we asked a candidate if she could describe herself in one word. And she asked if she could use 2 words. And we responded, sure, use 2 words. And she responded, flexible. What's wrong with that answer, guys? So, and this person had a master's degree, by the way. This was not somebody who was right out of 10th grade or something. And then we get into too much information. I gave an interview one time with a guy. I had a guy interviewing with me for a job who not only did he drop F-bombs during the interview, stayed after the interview to tell me all about coming home to find his wife in bed with another man and how his marriage was coming apart. I had known this man for 20 minutes. I got to hear everything about his life. I felt terrible that he was falling apart personally, but it's not the place to do it. I had another gentleman who, within the first 3 minutes of the interview, admitted to being a convicted felon, but also said that he was perfectly okay to touch computers now. So in terms of, can I discriminate against him for being a felon? Technically not. That's not the way to open the interview. We also had a person who applied for a job, and this was about 1999-2000, in the occupational therapy field, who sent his application letter to Dear Sirs. What's wrong with that, folks? Exactly right. And in the occupational therapy field, is that more male or female dominated? There are plenty more females working in that field. I also had a guy send me his list of requirements. He actually sent his resume in with the size of television he wanted in his office and the cable channels he needed to have access to. He literally had a list of demands. People do dumb things all the time, guys. We really do. Some of the other things that people have really done, some of these are anecdotal. I've heard from other people. Some I've heard from my friends. I have a friend who works in HR who actually had a guy show up drunk to an interview. She had to call him a cab to get him home. Had another guy who showed up and tried to proposition her, so tried to pick her up during the course of the interview. We've had another person who called their mom during the interview to ask what to say to the interviewer. Some other things that have happened, for example, some people have fallen asleep, people taking phone calls, people do all these things. Like, could you imagine, guys, if I showed up for a job interview with you guys, and Becky, you're interviewing me for a job, ask me about my qualifications.
What are your qualifications?
Well, Becky, let me tell you, I know a thing or two about a thing or two. What impression are you making on the potential person you're interviewing? People do this stuff, guys. People do this stuff. So when we start talking about the reasons why we interview people the way we do, this is all based in reality. These are things that really happen. We're going to be talking about how we understand what people are right for what organizations. We're going to be understanding how we can predict if somebody's going to work at a job or not. We're also going to talk about how we actually pick the people who would be good for a job, what kinds of processes we might go through, interviews, etc. We're going to be talking about different types of interviews and why they're good or why they might not be so good. We're also going to get into the legal aspects of selecting people, i.e., when can you ask someone for a drug test, and what are some other best practices. Can anybody share with me a story and when they were in an interview and found that it was stressful or uncomfortable? Did anybody ever have a stressful interview? Yes.
I had an interview in high school where it was a panel of 5 people, I think, and I walked into the room and I went to shake everyone's hand, and the one lady yelled at me and said that it was like an inappropriate time to do like handshakes because it was like she didn't want to get sick or something like that. It was really weird, and it just kind of threw me off because you're supposed to shake everyone's hand.
Like literally yelled at you.
Yeah, it was like embarrassing for me because I didn't expect her to yell at me for that.
Did the rest of the panel kind of look at her and say, like, what the hell is wrong with this woman?
Yeah, they kind of did, but no one said anything.
That's awkward. Wow, that's what I've not heard before. Anybody else have an unpleasant or uncomfortable experience during an interview? Jojo, you look like you want to say something. Have you had an interesting interview experience?
Yeah,
What happened?
I was dropping my little sister off at a job interview this summer. While I ended up going in there and doing the interview in shorts, sneakers, t-shirt. Got the job.
Wow, good for you, man.
Yeah, it was weird.
Wow. And you say you dropped your sister off at the job interview. Were you even planning on interviewing for the job? So you just happened to be there, and they needed somebody, and they hired you. How about that, man? Let's hear it for 4% unemployment, man. You show up and get a job. That's awesome. Guys, when we're interviewing with people, it can be very stressful. It can be stressful when we're interviewing with more than one person. It can also be stressful when we show up. I'll tell you about the worst job interview I ever had, and it was terrible because I was lied to. I was right out of college, and I applied for a marketing job. It was marketing for an organization that was doing environmental advocacy. I'm all about the environment. I figured this sounds great. I put on my suit, showed up for an interview in Pittsburgh. I was riding with my friend Dom, whose entire job that day was to feed the meter while I went in for the interview. Because we took my car, it was downtown parking in Pittsburgh. All he had to do was feed the meter. He went to the local bar to enjoy happy hour while I went to my interview. His entire job that day was to feed the meter. I walk into the interview. I've got my charcoal gray suit on. I'm feeling really good. I walk in. I'm the best dressed person in the office. The guy who's interviewing me literally has a t-shirt with a hole in it and uncomfortably high cutoffs. He's got a very big unkempt beard, and this environmental advocacy job was literally riding in a bus, getting dropped off in a neighborhood, going door to door, handing flyers to people. So it wasn't marketing at all. It was basically canvassing neighborhoods with flyers. As you can understand, I was pretty ticked off. I had felt misled about the job. I left to find a $45 parking ticket on my car because my friend had gotten drunk at the bar and had forgotten to feed the meter. And it rained on me on my way to the car, too. It was one of those days where you just realize, like, there are some days that are your day. This is not one of those days. The worst part was that the whole thing happened because I had been misled about the interview in the first place, about what the job actually meant. If you can't be honest about the job, you're never going to find the right person for it. So selection means we're picking the right person for the job. And putting the right person in the right job is called placement. So for example, if you get hired by Ford or Amazon or IBM, they may realize that you might be a better keep for marketing than the IT job that you played for, or that you interviewed for, I should say. So selection's picking people to go into an organization. Placing them is putting them in the right place. We also have something that's a theory called attraction, selection, attrition, and that means people are attracted to companies that fit their personality and jobs that fit their personality, and if it doesn't fit, people will generally leave on their own. That theory makes a lot more sense when the economy is good and we can walk away. When somebody really fits well with an organization, you can feel it. You guys know it. When you walk into a classroom at a university and the person's the right fit for that particular school, you know it. Just like if you go to a restaurant, you know the right person who could be working there. Or if you walk into any company, you know that's the right person for the right company. Then we also have a person dynamic fit. Guys, would you agree, and without being judgmental, would you agree that as a whole, the instructors in the School of Business have a different collective character than other schools in the university? Do we? Yeah. What's unique about kind of our collective character here? What are some things you would know about any of this? More what? Yeah, I think we're pretty informal here, aren't we? We're pretty informal. Oh, we're pretty direct too, aren't we? You never have to guess what we're thinking. I think most of us in the School of Business, if you ran into us outside of work, you'd never guess we were academics. We tend to keep it pretty grounded. That's not slamming anybody else in one of the other schools. They've got their own character. But a person who would fit well in this school might not fit well in the other schools because of our personality. There's actually a term for it. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this in a literature course. Have you ever heard the term gestalt? It means that we've got a collective personality. Just like a time in history has a gestalt, an organization of people has a gestalt as well. So if we get a mismatch, if we have the wrong person who could be in the right organization but in the right department, it might not work so well. Somebody, for example, who's spouting poetry and talking about very philosophical things all the time might not be the right fit to teach within the School of Business. It's taking nothing away from somebody who speaks that way. And finally, a person fits well with a job or they don't. If you've got the right knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs, plus the right personality and the right motivation, you might be the right person for that particular job. Now, when we're selecting, we also have to think about things too. When people are applying for jobs, we also have to make sure that we are staying in compliance with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC. And what that means is we had better be hiring people to represent the demography of the area that we're in so that we are not misrepresenting our company for the area in which we operate. There are lots of ways we can do this. We can have individual departments do their hiring and hope that they're ethical about it, or we can make sure for example, our HR department is doing initial screens of applicants that are coming into our organization. We can do that either way. So some of the things that we look at before you hire somebody, obviously you're going to get applications. You're going to interview people. You might do pre-employment tests. You might do a background. And by the way, why is it so incredibly likely in 2019? I would bet that all of you, for your first-time position, are going to get background testing. Why do I think that? It's 2019. What's different these days? How hard is it to do a background investigation? It's easy and it's cheap. And it's all done online. I guarantee you, if you haven't had one done on you yet, there will be one done on you. And also, we might be scheduling physical examinations for people if it's a key job responsibility. Who can give me an example of a job where a physical exam could be a prerequisite to hire? Trust me, it ain't teaching. What do you think? What might be an example of a job where you got to be screened physically before you can get hired? Military, police, anything that involves actual physical activity. Now here's a question for you guys. See if you remember this from earlier part of our class. Can you require somebody to get a urine screen before you've made a job offer? You cannot. You have to get a urine screen can only be requested after a conditional offer of employment has been made. Now, things that you're going to do after you hire somebody, you're going to decide where you're placing them in your company. You're going to give them orientation and onboarding. We're going to make sure that we are following up, seeing how they're doing. We're also going to see if people are leaving, for example. Are we doing exit interviews and we're keeping records on all this stuff? By the way, guys, has anybody ever heard the term onboarding before? Anybody know what it means? If you haven't heard it, here's the thing. We talked in a previous class how you never get a second chance to make a first impression. There are a lot of studies that show that how you onboard somebody, how you acclimate them to company culture from the moment they walk in the door is going to determine if they stay or not. Think about this. We get our attention up front, guys. We get our impression from somebody from the first time we meet them. It's the same with an organization. Now, guys, if you will share with me, if somebody's willing to share with me, when they made their first campus visit to St. Francis, for example, will somebody share an impression they got? It can be positive or negative. What was your impression? The deadline was windy. Yes, sir.
For me, it was sure that's the right place to be.
And what gave you that impression?
I actually don't know what it was. I mean, I came here for pre-season, so no one was here. But then two guys from the team showed me around, and then I just got the feeling that it's perfect.
So it's an informal onboarding happened. You had a couple of guys who took you under their wing, so to speak. Anybody else have an initial impression of this place, positive or negative, on the first visit? You guys all had an impression. You're here? Yes.
For me, it was like actually Katie.
I'm sorry?
Katie Flynn.
I don't.
She's my tour guide, and she was in SGA. She's actually my predecessor. And she explained so many different opportunities that you can take, and I felt like I could succeed here.
So you had, again, somebody who was willing to give you a very personal touch to this whole thing. If you remember your freshman orientation, guys, the reason that this stuff is taken so seriously, if you want to know, guys, please, attention up front, not on your phones, please. If you want to know why they take such attention in this stuff and making sure as freshmen have no free time for the first couple of days on campus, they want to make sure that you are being indoctrinated to all of these things, that you're being onboarded, you're being given a massive dose of our culture. Guys, in terms of how we know somebody's going to be successful in our organization, though, first is selection criteria. It means, why did you hire somebody in the first place? If you're requiring a bachelor's degree for a job, if you're requiring a certain skill set, that's considered to be a predictor of whether or not you're going to be successful in that job. And a predictor of a selection criteria means things we can measure to determine that. Say, for example, we wanted to hire a new instructor in accounting. What might be a predictor of that person's success? Yes? Yeah, do we have a validated kind of background on this person? Have they worked in accounting before? So they're good with numbers. Or, you could also give them some sort of a pre-employment test, have them do some calculations. What else might be a predictor of their success?
Past
Sorry?
past
Yeah, what's their past employment history look like? If they had good employers who are willing to give them references, that's a pretty good predictor as well. Are there other things that would predict their success as an accounting instructor? Yes. Yeah, certifications for sure. And you could even have somebody do a personality screen. You can have them do a test to find out what kind of person they are. Are they an introvert or an extrovert? In fact, what I think I'm going to do for this class, normally for this chapter, I have you guys do a job but a job interviewing exercise. But we may actually do like a Myers-Briggs or a personality test to see how you guys respond to that as well. So in terms of what are predictors and selection criteria, we get into what makes somebody perform well at their job. What's an element of good job performance? Is somebody doing good quality work? Are they doing good quantities of work? Are they compatible with their workplace? So that's what we want out of our employees. Well, here's some of the characteristics that help us get through things we talked about before. Does somebody have natural ability? Are they conscientious? Are they smart? These are all things we need for job performance. Well, what we're looking for at the selection area, when we look at this person when they first come through the door, what's their experience? What are their skills? What's their salary history? What are the references? Because this stuff helps us predict what kind of characteristics this person really has and how well they're actually going to perform on the job. Here's my question for you guys. Have you ever had a first impression about someone that was wrong? Can you think, would somebody be willing to share with me? Don't name names, but if you have ever had the wrong impression of somebody. Yeah, first impressions aren't always correct. And here's the trick too. Unfortunately, sometimes good first impressions aren't always correct either. You might meet somebody for the first time and think this person could be great for the job. They seem to have all of these things by the tail, and the predictors maybe aren't accurate. Well, here's the trick. Let's say we repeatedly are making bad decisions in our hiring. If we're interviewing people and we keep on getting bad hires, what could be our predictors are all wrong. It could be we're measuring the wrong things in terms of what's going to predict success in somebody's career. So guys, give me an idea of a job. Somebody tell me a job that they're interested in when they get out of school. What's a career you're interested in? Yes. Awesome. That hot field, by the way. So we're going to say hospital development. Would you expand on the position a little? Are you seeing yourself, for example, in marketing, fundraising? What do you see this position?
Basically, I want to be able to start at a hospital administrator somewhere back country, and once I get the experience, eventually get a loan to start my own type of like private healthcare firm, and then develop hospitals.
Crazy, man. And there's a lot of money in it, particularly if you're
It's
looking.
just it's like a very niche country outline, but
Well, let's talk about that. Now, obviously, we don't have a fully developed position description or anything like that, but let's talk about it. If we're talking about this hospital development specialist, guys, what would be things that would be predictors of somebody's success in this role? What might be things about this person that would predict how good they would be in this position? We're talking about development, we're talking about fundraising, organizational behavior, management. What are things that could be predictors?
personality aspect.
Sure. Both. Give me.
Well, hospital development. I guess you would be a management, so you have to have some type of like skills, compassion, the understanding.
I'm going to say history of appropriate skills. What else, guys? Anybody else have an idea? What else could be a predictor? Zach, what's your degree in?
Healthcare management.
So wouldn't a degree in healthcare management be a potential predictor as well? It's a relevant degree. What else could predict somebody's success? Yes.
Knowledge of the industry, because we don't have one type of insurance package.
Industry knowledge. Is there anything else that can predict somebody's success here? Yes. Probably an extrovert too, I would imagine. Would you, Zach? You're in this position. Would you agree, extroversion? Yeah. Is there anything else that can give you a predictor on this? How about work experience? You know, where have you worked? So all of these things could be predictors if somebody is good for this job or not. And by the way, guys, the whole extroversion thing, personality testing didn't used to be as big of a deal as it is now, but it is a big deal with some companies right now. I'll give you some examples of companies who take this very seriously. Google takes this very seriously. Amazon takes this very seriously. They want to know what your personality is. What are other things that they sometimes screen for, by the way? Their personality types, they also want to know about your ethics. They want to know about your honesty. They want to know how you're going to deal in high-stress situations, which is why we do situational interviews, too. But there's also the idea of screening for somebody's personality type in here as well. Guys, we're going to pause for a brief break while I answer a question from someone. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask a question kind of about the screening stuff. So, I know some jobs, they're like looking like to your debt and stuff. Do you think that that's fair, I guess, or do you think that's like applicable in that situation?
You're asking an excellent question, and I can answer this because a good friend of mine does regular background investigations. He's a private investigator. And if you had to guess, the main reason why we do investigations on financials is mainly for people handling money. Like, say, for example, if you get a bad credit check, it's very hard to get a job in the government, some departments too, because if you're handling money. And here's the other part too. If you want to know why, for example, why would law enforcement care about your credit history? Any ideas? Because check this out. If you want to have leverage over somebody, you want to extort somebody, money's a good way to do it. Almost every single spy who has ever been busted of espionage against the U.S. government was in significant debt and was betraying their country to try to get the loan sharks off their backs. If you look up the history of most of the notorious spies in the history of our country, it's people who had bad debt. It's crazy what motivates people, people selling state secrets so that they can get rid of their bad debts. So I guess to return that, Corey, I think that some jobs it makes sense. I think it's not good if it's a complete barrier for somebody getting employment. I think there are some jobs that doesn't make any sense at all. If you're working in a lawn care company, or if you're working someplace where you're not touching money, why should it matter, right? So it's situational. Anybody else have an opinion on that? It's pretty interesting what shows up on a background investigation, by the way. And guys, we're going to hit this slide and we're going to call it a day. Because we're going to be talking about reliability versus validity. Reliability means how many times are you going to be able to get the same result when you perform a test. Validity, however, means is the test valid in the first place? Like, say, for example, if I scored this entire class on how many of you breathe at least 30 times a minute, I bet all of you would score 100%. Does drawing breath mean you're doing well in an HR class? No. It's a reliable test, but it's not valid. It doesn't measure anything related to what we're trying to prove. So Corey's point about the financial statements, the question we would have to ask ourselves, is that a valid test for the position for which we're applying? So that being said, guys, I think that given the amount of material we got through today, and given the fact that we are making good progress, we're going to call it a day right there. And I will see you guys not Friday. When will I see you? I'll see you Monday. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to get your assignments. Well, I guess your current assignment. When is that due? I don't even remember. It's that kind of a day. Don't be late.